Hi, my name's Alex with Email Marketing. In this series, I will go over some KPIs, the most important ones that we use all the time to create more or less advanced insights and dashboards into email marketing performance. So the first metric in this series is going to be open rate. It's it's a very basic one. I'm sure everyone has heard of it, but there are some little quirks to it. The main thing I want to address in this video is its reliability. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. And then I will also explain how this goes, how this fits into an overall marketing analysis dashboard. So I'm probably going to create a separate video for that part where we kind of look at all the KPIs. But first I want to go into a few things about the open rate that you might not know. And with that being said, let's dive into it. So the open rate is the percentage of people who have opened an email that you send out of all recipients. It is important because it's our first sign of interest. So, engagement lists quality. So if we're sending too many emails, the open rates will drop. If we are sending emails to the wrong people, the open rates will drop. If we start suddenly segmenting and sending emails to much smaller segments, the open rates will most likely improve. If we run an A/B test with for a subject line in a flow, the open rate will determine which variation wins. So the open rate is really our first interaction with or a first measurable interaction with a customer, and so it is a very important sign of interest. Now, why do we not use open rates that much anymore? Open rates, we still use them when we have to in A/B tests. For instance, like I said, if you're A/B testing a subject line, there's no other way to find out which one is better than to trust the open rate. But here is where it gets complicated. Since 2021, so it's been a while, there have been increasing privacy updates, which really hurt your ESP, so your Klaviyo, MailChimp, basically your email service provider. It really hurts their ability to track opens accordingly, and it hurts them by inflating it. So the reason this happens, and we don't have to go too much into the details here because it's not really relevant, but opens are tracked with a pixel. So it's a little bit of code that's inside your email. If if that code is loaded, then it sends it basically tells the ESP, or it tells Klaviyo this email has been opened. What a lot of these privacy updates that have been coming out in the last few years are doing is they are preloading some of the code in the emails. Most of them are doing it for privacy reasons. So the first big update was in 2021 was Apple privacy. They started preloading so that to obfuscate, to make it more difficult to track opens, to give people more control over their privacy. So if you select that you don't want your opens to be tracked, Apple Mail would preload these pixels. So basically this means that the events are all firing. So if you send an email to a person who reads it on Apple Mail, if they don't open the email but they just open their email app, the app will preload a bunch of these pixels, and all the pixels that are preloaded will send an open event to the tracking software. So that is very important to know because because basically the open rate has become much higher in the last couple of years as a result of this. So it used to be, if you can still find the old Klaviyo benchmarks online, where basically there's a very handy table of benchmarks that Klaviyo suggested, and the open rate to be, there's several tiers. The excellent tier, so the best tier, was 25%. Now 25% is considered pretty bad because of all the inflation through open rate tracking. So now, for a campaign, you want to have it at least at 40% open rate. I think that would be a great open rate to land at. And seeing numbers depending on the account and the audience, seeing numbers like 70% or 75% is not uncommon. One thing you can do to mitigate that is, if you're segmenting by open rate, you might just be shooting in the blind. So one thing that, for instance, Klaviyo gives you access to, and some other ESPs might do it too, is sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But one feature that they give you access to is excluding Apple privacy recipients. So you can just remove those from segments. You can remove them from sends. What I do sometimes, because they can be a significant chunk in the list, but so I would only do that if you are having significant deliverability issues and you're not sure how to solve them. That's one thing you can do. But what I like to do is also just have this segmentation, not even to use it, but just to know how big of a percentage of a specific client's user base is using, is likely to not have reliable open rate tracking. So let's say if we find that 50% of the list is using Apple privacy, then we know that there's a very high chance that our list that our opens are going to be very inflated, and then we're going to have people in our list that we're sending a lot of emails to despite them not opening them at all, because we just don't know. So it's just kind of a way to gauge the risk. If you segment out by if you make that segment and you find that only 10% of your list are using Apple privacy mode, then you can reasonably assume that the open rate you're getting is pretty accurate. So that's one way to work around these filters. It's not a great workaround, but it does give you a little bit of control over at least finding. It gives you an indicator of the quality of your data. So that is the main thing about open rate that you have to know right now. So first thing is, it's the first interaction with your customers. It is their first sign of engagement and interest and list quality. And the second very important component of open rates is they are becoming increasingly unreliable. And one great way to find out how reliable/unreliable your open rate tracking is finding out how many of your users are using Apple privacy mail, and you can do that very easily in Klaviyo. So that's it for open rate. I hope this helped a little bit and answered some questions or solved some issues that you might have. I will make a new video about the next metric as soon as possible, and I'll see you then. Thank you for watching.